The squirrel was magic! Beware your human heart. This is Diabolical Index for July 2nd, 2018, where the pages of the uncanny reside. Coming to you live from the Nut House, actually in the Anamonkai set. It's one of those things where we were running a bit late, so we just decided to do it as is. You know, that's the way it goes sometimes. And these things, we just say to hell with it. I mean, especially after I walk in and get all my stuff together, and Andrew finally bebops through the door, and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, man, what's up? You look like shit. You look really tired." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I'm glad I'm putting my face all over everywhere tonight. Awesome." Yeah. He said something about, like, the bags under my eyes that I have, like, Gucci on the side of them. I don't know. Whatever it is. It's just fine. Yeah. I look like shit. That's okay. Everybody's here to look at my brains, not at my face. Hopefully. Because, yeah. Anyhow. So, tonight is a very special night where you have asked for it and you have gotten it by special request and the wonders of the Facebook poll. I'm a big believer in the Facebook poll now because I honestly think that a lot of people would rather just click a button one time than put anything, even resembling words, even typing anything into anything. So I put a poll up about the Choose Your Own Adventure number 6. Your code name is Jonah, and something I was developing entitled Frankenstory. Which would involve random elements being picked by the audience and fellow podcasters and making up a story on the fly out of that. But it didn't win the cut. It didn't make the choices. So that's all right. Maybe next time. Maybe no one knew what it was. You know, fear of the unknown, like old H.P. Lovecraft said. You know, it's one of those things. If you don't know what it is, you're not interested. Hey, you want to be boring? That's up to you. Totally up to you. But I wanted to talk a little bit today about, before I start in with all this kind of stuff, I'm always trying to find out, new things to do. And it just so happened that today on my travels, when I was picking up new stock for the bookstore, I ended up coming across a bunch of, it's a danger. It's always a danger when I'm going to pick up new stock for the store that invariably I end up taking about 2/3 of it back up to my own apartment. That's just the way it goes. I'm passionate. Some would say obsessed. Some would say clinically insane over it. That's okay. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be here. So one of the first books that I found that was really interesting to me was a book by William Safire, and he wrote, I don't know if it still exists in the New York Times, but he wrote a column called On Language, which I completely love the compilations of the editorials and the articles that are written about the English language, eccentricities and the little foibles and oddities of the English language. I can't get enough of it. I love him and Lederer and Espy. So I get them whenever I find them, and this was no exception, except for one crucial detail. When I was bringing it home, a lot of times when I go out on the hunt and I find these books, I I don't know. I'd like to go through them while I'm there, look through my loot after I get my bags and all that kind of stuff. And I open up to the first page, and it turns out that it was signed by William Sapphire. I hope I'm saying that right. And maybe Saphir. But it was totally awesome. I normally don't put a whole lot of stock in autographs and things like that, signed books. I don't get them on purpose. But when I get them by accident, I really enjoy that, especially with someone I respect as much as him. So that was definitely a... Huh?
What was the name of the book?
Name of the book was No Uncertain Terms. Sorry. No Uncertain Terms by William Sapphire. I thought the author would be enough, seeing as how they're all completely different. Tex. What are you going to do? You know? I don't know what to say. It's just whatever. Just whatever, man. I just don't... I look like shit.
It's up now.
It's up now, he says. Okay, awesome. But yeah, it was total delight opening that up and seeing the signature, especially since a lot of times when, you know, I think that it was done specifically for one person rather than having it just be like a stack of signatures coming out. When you have a signing somewhere and everybody's specifically there to get something signed and it looks like it's been rushed, this one looked like he had taken his time. It was a signature with love autograph that cared. So, or maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe I'm just inflating its importance because it came straight to me. I don't care. I loved it. That was awesome. I also remember receiving a signed copy of Herculobus, or the Red Planet, from the guys at Pointless Discussions, for my involvement in getting I think it was getting their little opening video done. But yeah, that was one of the few times where, you know, it was personal towards me. A lot of times when I find the autographs, it's to someone else, but it's pretty awesome any way you slice it, really. And that was one of the ones I found. The second one I was going to mention, it's got a lot of conversational points about it. Number one is it's called Sexual Revolution in Early America. Number one is interesting. And number two is from Johns Hopkins, so you know this isn't some fluff piece. There's been some serious research that's gone into the making of this book. And number three, the name of the author is Richard Godbeer. Now, whether I'm not sure if you actually say that title or that his name Godbeer like it looks, but the fact that you have a book called Sexual Revolution in Early America by Dick Godbeer, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Especially since you open it up and it's a total scholarly work about a lot of the misconceptions of the sexual mores and attitudes and just the craziness that went on behind the scenes, especially when you're thinking about that time in human history. A lot of times people thought that the sexual awakening had to do with cutting ties with God. So, you know, people get all titillated and bent out of shape about 50 Shades of Grey, and in a time like now, that level of kink is so white bread, it's unbelievable. But if you look relatively in the past, you'd have to think that people thought that they were going to hell and they still wanted to get crazy. So that totally lends a new aspect to that and heightens all that kind of stuff. But despite the it's childish, what can I say? I don't know, it just tickled me when I saw that, and it was $1. I mean, you can't get much better than that. I'm a total cheapskate. I'm just trying to get the most for the least. What am I going to do? And in this case, it was well worth it. I'll probably... I'll come up with an update. Porn name star class. I don't quite get that, Jennifer. Porn name star class. I don't know. Is that my? Oh, I did do I did a dragon name. You know, you see all these things online where it's like, hey, you want to know what your dragon name is? You want to know what your porn star name is, rock star name, all this kind of stuff. I ended up being Yirok, the Exasperated Hoarder. Yirok the Exasperated, hoarder of pretzels and windows. So, there you go. That makes no damn sense. But what does? Anyhow, the third one that I found that I thought I'd mention will be... I'd be really surprised if it wasn't much beloved by everyone listening to the podcast. Everyone from my generation and beyond, these books kind of like, it solidified everything that was scary, everything that creeped us out. In that time, it was just unparalleled when it came to that, the campfire story, lore, and that would be Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, compiled by Alvin Schwartz. It's been kind of a shame in the last little while. For one reason or another, I really need to research it and see exactly why it happened. If it just had to do with just basically, you know, passing his torch and making new additions and changing things up, or what. It seems to me that they couldn't have spoken to anyone that the book was beloved to, because the art was most of the appeal of the book, and for some reason in the last few decades they have switched up the art, and it just, I don't know, for some reason it was a total package. You had this kind of streaky, creepy, I don't know, it's difficult to, it's just like kind of ethereal in a dark sort of way, kind of like spindly tips, like it kind of reminded me of like a dark watercolor, almost like a woodcut, like in some points, where, or like a Rorschach blot, where you'd fold the paper over and you'd see the ink kind of get done up in these symmetrical images, except in this case they were about as asymmetrical as you could get. But I can't remember, I think it's Gamel, what's the name of the artist? I'm not looking at the cover right now, but I found a copy of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's difficult to do, it's difficult to pick up one of those with the original art without paying through the nose for it. And I ended up finding a kind of a copy that was well read earlier today. So I don't know how many of you remember that, but I'd be willing to bet that it's a lot of you. And if you haven't experienced it yourself, if you're looking for a really good fright for any young people in your life, I totally recommend it. Some would say that it's a little too much for younger readers, but I disagree. I think we mollycoddle the younger readers to our peril, especially when you think about the older fairy tales. There's something vital about the threat, the darkness of fairy tales that I think is important. I think there's a lot of lessons and balances of, I don't know, social constructs and just the psychology of right and wrong that come into fairy tales that I think have been lost to time in a lot of ways. I think that, there's a reason why people love the Neverending Story movie and Labyrinth and Legend and, Willy Wonka. I don't do talk to text. It's just it seems like there's rampant grammar errors there. So I've never done that. But Jennifer's talking about the talk to text fucking her up. But in this case, I totally recommend Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think there were 3 volumes of it. Wherever you can find them, if you can find them. They have compilations. They've put omnibus. Stay classy. Stay classy. Got it. Okay, that makes so much more sense now. But uh, but anyway, they've come up with omnibus editions where they've gathered all three of the volumes in one, which is a good way to get it. If you can manage to get the one that has the original art, they have an omnibus edition that has the same artist with new art, and it's okay. There's something about the original covers had the black, red, and white. Sometimes there's a little splash of blue here and there, and it's so stark and gripping art. I totally recommend it. Period. Scary Stories of Telling Dark Alvin Swartz. I mention it only because it was such an awesome find in my hunts. You know, when I'm going digging through bins looking for different things to put up to tantalize everybody that stops in Paradox City Books and Games. So there you go. I didn't have any. I mean, there were bursts and deaths this week, but I don't know. I decided it was a little more important to get back into the book arena. Most likely with the next episode, the entry, I'll bring those up yet again. There are plenty of names, and I don't know. I want to do this time. I can do what I want. I do what I want. So there you go. Anyhow, and also, putting kind of a call out there to anyone interested. There would be no payment, I guess. I don't know. That's just the way the starving little podcaster, half-ass businessman. I'm looking to make a new sticker for the shop. I'm a big believer in sticker marketing, and I even made one for the podcast and for the shop. And every time I think of it, I try to design a new one. And hopefully some of you out there have seen Gleaming the Cube, back when Christian Slater was in his heyday. And I'm sure that anybody at Blacklist and in Lawrenceburg will remember Gleaming the Cube, and also kind of laugh at I mean, I don't know what the provenance of the people who are putting together Gleaming the Cube. It's a skateboarding film, and it just seems so far removed from the actual skateboarding culture to me. I wouldn't know as well as some people, but I had an idea the other day because I was thinking about Gleaming the Cube, and I was thinking about Christian Slater and another movie he did called Pump Up the Volume, and about actually a pirate radio station. Happy Harry Hardon doing the pirate radio station. But I guess it all kind of comes back around. Maybe I was thinking of the podcasts and pointless discussions and heckles and horror and all, and brand new Cannibal Wine Tasting. Everybody's just kind of like making up their content and hitting the Facebook and everywhere else we can plug our little voices into and our opinions. But for some reason it came back around from Pump Up the Volume to the Gleaming the Cube, and I would really like to make a sticker that was because everything in the shop has to do with books and everything. But I had an idea where it would actually be the skateboard from Gleaming the Cube, kind of in like 3/4 profile, a little bit tilted or whatever, because the skateboard had the diamond plating that you see on trucks. It was basically part of the final scene of the movie, the battle, where he needed a steel fortified skateboard for some reason, so he put this steel diamond plating all over it. But I had the idea of having a sticker that would have that diamond plated skateboard kind of tilted in 3/4 profile, and then have Pump Up the Volumes, as in like book volumes, written across the center wood plate of that, and have that be my next sticker. So if I got any artists out there who are willing to show me some specs on that, I'd be interested in seeing it. But Jennifer Kettenbrink, you never mentioned you could do stickers. What in the hell, woman? Sheesh. Although this is coming from a lady who made my Diabolical Index t-shirt, so she's full of surprises. Anyway, so am I. You asked for it, you got it. We have the Choose Your Own Adventure number 6. Your code name is Jonah. I have never opened this book before. I always thought that the title was kind of intriguing. I wasn't exactly sure what it meant. Can I get book cam on this real quick?
There you go.
All right. I wanted to show you the illustration on the back. It's of a lighthouse, and this there's a lot of strange elements to this story. Just from looking it over in the cover and the back. I will read you the back synopsis, and you can decide for yourself. Will you succeed in this dangerous mission? You are a clever American spy. Your code name is Jonah. On a special mission to Deception Island off the coast of Greenland, you discover a secret of worldwide importance. But, for reasons you'll understand when you read the story, it may be dangerous to reveal this secret to anyone. So, I don't know what's going on. Did you bring the cover up on that one? Show them everything? Okay. This is kind of reminding me a little bit of, if anyone has ever seen Day of the Dolphin with George C. Scott in it. I'm opening up pictures and I'm seeing kind of like an EKG monitor, paper, and a whale. So, whether or not this has to do with like Star Trek V, The Voyage Home, or I think it's Star Trek V, 6, can't remember. I always lose track. One of them. But why don't we just go into it? As always, I'll read the beginning disclaimer. Warning. Do not read this book straight through to the end. These pages contain many different adventures you can have while working as a secret agent. From time to time as you read along, you may be asked to make a choice. Your choice may lead to success or to disaster. The adventures you take are a result of your choice. You are responsible because you choose. After you make your choice, follow the instructions to see what happens to you next. Remember, this isn't quite true, but remember, you cannot go back. Think carefully before you make a move. One mistake can be your last, or it can make your fortune. Okay, well, that isn't quite true, because on this show, you know, if we run into an impasse, or if we get shredded alive, or we burn to death, or leeches, drive-by shooting, you name it. I mean, although that was definitely one of those cases where the drive-by shooting is exactly what we needed. What a. Okay, I don't want to say too much about it because I wouldn't want you to not watch that episode due to it, but it could have been a little more interesting. Live symbol is covering the cover, by the way, Jennifer is saying. She's saying that the live symbol on the screen is covering up the book cover. So
I can bring it down a little bit then.
Well, you just go ahead and do that. Anyhow. Okay. I'm need book cam again when you have a second. I'm just throwing all kinds of commands at him. He doesn't know what to do. He's unflappable though. Andrew Moore, it rolls right off his back like an otter. He just nothing bothers him. Okay, so it looks to me like codename Jonah is that good or not? He's making this sign with his hand. He's just like flapping it around. And I honestly don't know if it's good or not. But I think this is Jonah, the secret agent, speaking with his head of operations. 6 levels below the White House lawn. In Annex U-36, you lean back in the big red leather chair in the office of J.J. O'Bard, director of the Special Intelligence Group. He glares at you through steel-rimmed glasses from a massive oak desk and taps his black briar pipe on the rim of a crystal bowl. Have you ever heard the sounds of the humpbacked whales? O'Bard asks you. They're like organ music, beautiful and eerie. Uh-huh, you reply. Obard picks up a letter from his desk.
From Dr. Claude Dumont in Boston to the President of the United States. Dear Mr. President, while tracking humpback whales near Bermuda last month, we recorded whale songs of a type we had never heard before. The whales have a secret, and the new whale song is the key. We are analyzing it with our computers.
I like that.
We are analyzing it with our computers.
No specifics whatsoever.
I'll advise you of our findings as soon as possible. Respectfully yours, Claude Dumont, Director, Center for Marine Studies. If Dumont is correct, Obard says, it's important for us to learn the meaning of the new whale song before anyone else does.
Okay.
For one thing, it will help us find where these whales get...
Oh, I see how it is.
For one thing, it will help us find where these whales go when they disappear.
What do you mean, you ask? I'm asking the same thing. Obard chews on his pipe before explaining.
At a time when there should be lots of humpbacked whales off Greenland, where they migrate to and fro in the summer, they seem to disappear completely. Since they can only stay underwater for 30 minutes, we have a mystery. Where do they go?
Is this what the intelligence community cares about? Where humpback whales end up? It's cool. I think it's kind of cool. It's not what you would have expected. So cool. But strange.
Where do they go?
Do you want me to go up to Boston and talk to Dumont, you ask? He seems pretty confused. He's like, what on earth did you pull me in here for? Obard fastens his eyes upon you as he pauses to light his pipe.
I'm afraid your assignment will be more difficult than that, he says. Dumont has been missing for 36 hours.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's the Last Crusade type of shit, where they're like talking to you. He's like, yeah, we have this guy who's been doing this thing, and da-da-da. Oh, okay, why doesn't he do it? He's been kidnapped. Oh, shit.
Dumont has been missing for 36 hours. We believe he's been kidnapped by KGB agents, led by someone known as Double I.
Obard pushes a folder across the desk. You pick it up and read a report of how, the day before last, actually, Dumont met with Professor Hans Klein, who agreed to help prepare the computer program that would be used in studying the new whale song. After the meeting, Dumont told Klein he was going straight home. He never made it.
We've booked you on the next plane to Boston, Obard says, as he puts the report back on the desk. A helicopter is waiting to take you to the airport. Find Dumont and find the whale song tape. Your mission is top priority. Your code name is Jonah.
Okay. The Jonah code name makes a lot more sense now. So, there you go. An hour and 20 minutes later, your 727 Stratojet touches down at Logan International Airport in Boston. You know that Dr. Hans Klein is a key man in the case. Perhaps you should see him first. On the other hand, the scientists at the Center for Marine Studies surely have been following Dumont's work closely. There's a good chance they have important information about the humpback whales. So, our first decision. Do you want to visit Dr. Hans Klein to see what's up with Dumont and what you can find out? Or do you want to visit the Center for Marine Studies and find out more about the humpback whale situation? If you want to visit Dr. Hans Klein, you turn to page 4. If you want to visit the Center for Marine Studies, you go to page 6. I'm kind of surprised at this. I don't want to make a snap judgment, but this is a very interesting, unusual, unique way of handling a secret agent story. I mean, maybe they had to tone it down. You know, they didn't want to make it too violent because it would have to deal with children and stuff. But it's, I just think it's really interesting. I really like it so far. I mean, like I said, I don't want to be too hasty because, I mean, we had one that was called The Scene of the Crime, and then the crime ended up being embezzlement. So sometimes when they're trying to stay out of the realm of violence when it comes to these different actions and these different situations, sometimes it doesn't work out so well. But in this case, it just seems very interesting. And Edward Packard had actually written at least one more of the Choose Your Own Adventures that we had done in the past. I can't remember which one it was though, but
Be scene of the crime.
huh?
So watch it be scene of the crime.
It might have been Scene of the Crime. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this will redeem it. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the choices once again. If you want to visit Dr. Hans Klein, the top man in the case, you go to page 4. If you want to visit the Center for Marine Studies, you go to page 6. Jennifer says she's desperate to know how I'm going to pick the voice for the evil dude. It's not that you're far behind, Jennifer. There's a slight delay in receiving the messages on my end of things.
Especially on Facebook.
Especially on Facebook. I think it ends up being something like 20 seconds, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Facebook has delays and people like did crazy stuff on there.
Say what now?
Like,
they have a delay because of what?
People have gotten shot and stuff on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So there's basically the delay on the Facebook stuff is so that you're not quite a full minute behind. It's probably about 20 seconds, but I guess it's kind of like the same type of preemptive stuff where even if something's going out live across the country, they want a little bit of a delay on there. That way, if someone commits suicide or if there's some kind of hellacious thing that occurs, they can kind of snap it off before someone gets to see it. But
I'm going to send it right now for Twitch, and I just hit test right now.
Yeah, so, but that wasn't no delay at all. Oh, okay, so, yeah, he sent something by Twitch and then immediately came up. So, Facebook has that delay in place. I'll read these again. I wonder where everybody's at. I definitely had people coming out for the poll. Where are y'all? I'm
2 for page 6.
2 for page 6, yeah.
Me and Paul.
So everybody's on the side of the Center for Marine Studies so far.
Jennifer hasn't voted yet, I don't think.
What's that?
I don't think Jennifer voted yet.
She's probably mulling the options. But let's see. Let me see if I can. Okay, so Klein. The last person to see Dumont alive was Hans Klein.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So that could be important. But I mean, why wouldn't you want to see some underwater mammals? You want to go to the marine studies. Why wouldn't anyone want to go to the aquarium? But then again, I mean, you're on the job. So whatever you think is right. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. If you want to visit Dr. Hans Klein, the last person to see Dumont alive, turn to page 4. If you want to visit the Center for Marine Studies and learn more about the humpback whales, go to page 6. That is correct. The Janet Jackson effect. I mean, who cares about a nipple? I mean, I actually felt the need to ask Andrew whether or not we could show that cover earlier, and that was a woodcut from like the 1700s. Why do we care about nipples? It's insanity.
It's only female nipples, though.
And only female ones. That's some bullshit, man. Oh, in fact, actually, page 6 is a landslide. But before we go to that, I watched Downsizing with Melanie last night. And it is dong heavy. It is dong heavy. And she was throwing up her hands. And I was basically, hey, it's just payback. It just so happens that it kind of it illustrates a thing that's been around since the beginning of time. Naked men are not that interesting. So if you want equality between the sexes when it comes to movie nudity, you better be ready for the consequences because it's going to be a sausage fest, and it's not too fun. It does not. There are very few people that are interested in that kind of shit. Anyway, rant over. We're going to page 6. You take a taxi cab to the center. Wait, before I go any further, I think I'm going to employ putting the bookmark where we were. Wait a second. It doesn't matter anyway. She really wants page 4, but she's going to page 6. This
I
is
on page 4 after I realized who the guy was. But...
Oh, well, too fucking late. You take a taxi cab to the center. A modest 2-story building on the Charles River. I think he's using straight up real places for this. He's talking about Logan International Airport and Charles River and Deception Point. And are met by Dr. Miles Roof, the assistant director. He tells you that although whales are highly intelligent animals, there's no evidence they communicate in a complex fashion, as do human beings. Ooh, this scientist is a skeptic. Whale songs are probably no different from bird songs, except they are longer, Roof. Why am I giving him that? That is not... His name is Miles. Miles does not sound like that. I apologize. For some reason, I thought his last name was Pesci. Give me a second. Okay. Whale songs are probably no different from bird songs, except they are longer, Ruff says. After all, whales have much bigger lungs. Your conversation is interrupted by a phone call from Paul McKim, assistant to the president. McKim tells you that the president has received another letter from Dumont. Ooh. But that it mysteriously disappeared before he had a chance to read it. The intrigue. You better get down here as quickly as possible, McKim says. You didn't call me by name, you reply. There's a short pause. Sorry, Jonah, he replies. You inform Dr. Roof that he must leave for Washington, but he urges you to wait a while in order to talk to Dr. Renata Carini, an Italian scientist who's expected at any moment. She knows a lot about what the Russians are doing, Dr. Roof says. I'm sure it'll be worth your while to stay and talk to her. All right. So now we have the question of talking to the female scientist or leave immediately for Washington, seeing as how Paul McKim called you by your code name, Jonah. So if you want to leave immediately for Washington and speak to most likely the president, maybe some of his people, you'll be going at page 12. If you want to wait and talk to Dr. Carini, the Italian scientist at the Center for Marine Studies, you turn to page 14. So, is this or is this not a little bit of sleight of hand to get us back around to where we would have been if we had talked to Klein? It's hard to say. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of mixing around of pages here. Although I love it when we keep moving. I hate it when it has me read 5 pages and then there's one choice. I like it that there are multiple choices coming fast. So, want to leave immediately for Washington? Maybe meet the President of the United States. Go to page 12. Or if you want to talk to the Italian scientist, you go to page 14. For some reason, the Italian scientist in my mind is looking like the scientist from Angels and Demons, the Dan Brown movie adaptation with Tom Hanks in it. She was Italian too. Okay, this is getting ridiculous now. Everybody's picking the same things. Where is everybody tonight? They did the poll. Wait a minute. I bet this is one of those things where they say that the reason why people fail to go to the gym after the winter vacation and the holiday season is because they sign up for the gym, and then just signing up alone psychologically gives you this level of success, like you've actually accomplished something. So then you don't end up going. So maybe when they did the poll and made the decision, in their minds, psychologically, they thought they had actually been involved in the story and we hadn't even started yet. So they didn't even bother to tune in tonight. Maybe they're getting fireworks together for Wednesday. Maybe they're packing the black powder and getting the wicks ready. Frankly, I don't care. You're supposed to be watching my show, man. Where are you? Page 12, if you want to meet the president. I don't know if you're going to meet the president. Who knows if you're going to meet the president. But if you want the... what is she talking about? Oh. You're showing your hand, Andrew.
What?
She's saying that she's seeing the reply before she hears the options. Are you replying on Twitch?
Yeah.
That's why. She's seeing what the numbers are. Oh, and now she is being the devil's advocate, going for 14. All right, so far we're going to Washington. And this is not unlike what happened in Planet H, I believe, right? So, of course, Paul would be all about that. As always, tune into Pointless Discussions whenever they come on again. There have been some hitches in the giddy up. So check them out for I totally understand. You feel compelled to disagree. Now she's pissed, everybody. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. As soon as you arrive at the White... Wow. This cuts completely to the chase. There is no plane. There is no nothing. As soon as you arrive at the White House, you are ushered into Mr. McKim's office. A tall, gaunt man in his late 40s. McKim relates to you that at about 9:30 yesterday morning... About? What in the heck? There's no abouts in secret agency. Come on. At about 9:30 yesterday morning, Maria Bittner, the president's secretary, opened a new letter to the president from Dr. Claude Dumont. She put the letter on the table for the president to look at later that day. When she came back in half an hour later, it was missing. Who had access to this room? You asked McKim. Only the president, his security advisor, Henry Timbers, and myself, and, of course, Ms. Bittner. McKim rises as the president himself walks into the room. The two of you shake hands, and the president asks about your work on the case. There are a number of mysteries about this, the president says. The new whale song, the disappearing whales, the disappearance of Dr. Dumont, and now the disappearance of his letter. I'd like you to stay right here. Who's talking? I'd like you to stay right here until you can find out what happened to the letter. But O'Bard tells me he has a plane waiting to take you to the Arcturus, a diesel schooner. Chartered to monitor Russian experiments with the whales. The skipper reports there's a Russian spy on the Arcturus who has defected and is willing to turn over valuable information. We could get our own security people to check out this stolen letter business, unless you feel you should handle it yourself. I like this. It's actually having a choice being exactly what you would say to the president. If you say, I think I'd better find out what happened to Dumont's missing letter, turn to page 28. If you say you want to leave for the Arcturus immediately, turn to page 29. So, do you want to go to a boat and talk to a Russian defector who could be planting false information in your head? Or do you want to find out what happened to the missing letter that was on the president's desk? From Dr. Dumont. There's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of unusual intrigue going on here. This is turning out to be a pretty decent secret agent story. A lot of times it goes straight for the action, but this has got a lot of moving secrets happening here. And a lot of times it circles back around to the decision that you'd made before, as if it's trying to lead you back in that direction again. But this seems to me like it's totally leading you in a completely different direction. And it's pretty cool. You got to meet the president in person. So, codename Jonah must be a pretty intense secret agent. He must be like 007 level. So, Copacetic Genocide saying, find that letter to find out what happened to Dumont. And let's see. No one wants to go to the Arcturus and speak to a Russian spy? Are you kidding me? Let's see what you got, everybody. Oh, boy. So we have Heckles and Horror this week?
I think so.
You know what the topic is? No one ever knows what their topic is. I don't care what they tell you. No one ever knows until the day before. Except for me. I've been doing a lot better. I've been trying to find my topics way beforehand if I can. Sometimes they just fall into your lap, though. Sometimes planning doesn't work quite as well as last-minute innovation. You never know what's going to work. I actually spoke to a kid in the drive-thru at Arby's earlier today, and I told him, he needs to be doing his own podcast because his delivery on the drive-thru was fantastic. The guy had a wonderful voice. So, and apparently he's been told that before. So hopefully, with any luck, he'll contact Magic Squirrel and he'll want to talk about the history of saltine crackers or whatever. You never know. You really don't. I mean, I still don't know what cannibal wine tasting is all about. It's just, it's one of those things where you never know what you're gonna find. It's nothing but craziness and surprises and unique personalities and individuals that ought to be locked away. We're totally full of that. I mean, that's all we've got. I mean, do we have anyone in the team on our staff? I mean, the only normal people are so normal as to be scary, like that guy on Falling Down. And then we have, we have a galaxy of mental problems in the Magic Scroll Network. So that's okay, because a lot of them,
That's why it's called Nut House.
they mesh well. I think all of us have some sort of hint of Tourette's at some point. So, I mean, anyone who would name their show Moore's Boards, what in the hell? When was the last time you did a Moore's Boards?
It's been a while.
7 years ago? Was the last one you did when we were going through the house, the Return to House on
I think it might have been.
Haunted Hill or whatever it was called? Was the house on Haunted Hill? Or were they trying to make it sound like the house? I think it was like the house on Haunted
It's
Hill.
called that. Betrayal on the House on Haunted Hill.
Miss Kettenbrink, I've got news for you. That was part of the poll. When are you going to give in and do an audience participation story right? That's what I was going to do. That was what Franken's story was. But it didn't win the day. So yeah.
Maybe in 2 weeks we'll do that.
Since everybody, I guess I was trying to make it mysterious. So I didn't put a blanket explanation out there, but that's what it was going to be. It was going to be an audience participation story right. Was going to be the Franken story, where everybody put elements into it, and then it ends up being this long volley. But in order to do that, everybody has to be on board, and so far, everybody's doing their nails. I don't know where the hell they're at, but anyway, where are we? Looks like letter all around.
I think so. Yeah.
This is a fascinatingly interesting. Everybody's just going after it. Let's see. But then again, it's honest. I don't like, it's not necessarily that fun when people disagree just for the sake of disagreeing. 28. Right? Was it 28? I think it was. Damn it, I already screwed up my little thing.
I was like, I didn't know. That's why I just put find that letter.
Screw it. I think that while I'm here, Mr. President, I'd better talk to the people who had access to that letter, you say. Fine, he replies. I'm sure McKim will give you all the help you need. After the president leaves, you exchange glances with McKim. He has a kindly face, but seems very nervous. He must be under a lot of stress. Wah, wah, wah. Is this a red herring? Are we trying to put some blame on McKim? Do you feel that either Mrs. Bittner or Secretary Timber... Holy shit! Okay, so McKim must be some sort of fellow agent, because which one am I on? Okay, this one. This is really interesting. So far, it's really seemed like the way that secret agents would behave, but unless this guy is a fellow agent, I doubt that he would say something like this. Do you feel that either Mr. Bittner or Secretary Timbers took the letter? You ask McKim. Logically, one of them must have taken it, he replies. But they both have stood up under every conceivable security investigation. Were you in Mrs. Bittner's office between 9:30 and 10 o'clock when she claimed she returned and found the letter missing from under the ashtray? Yes. I came here looking for her a few minutes before 10. She wasn't there, so I left. Did you notice anything? Well, I did notice that her desk was clear and there was no letter under the ashtray. Well. I don't know what she's saying. Oh, she's... Okay. If you decide to question Mrs. Bittner, turn to page 52. I don't know. It seems to me like you ought to be dealing with McKim, because he was kind of a prick He was like, did you notice anything? And he's like, I noticed that the damn letter wasn't there. So I was like, hey, McKim, we talked to the president. I'm trying to figure this out. Why don't you get the hells off on my back? If you decide to question Mrs. Bittner, turn to page 52. If you decide to question Timbers, turn to page 53. If you decide to give up trying to find who took the letter, turn to page 74. Okay, so Timbers is, let's see. I think Mrs. Bittner is this. This is weird. It's saying Secretary Timbers, so that must be like Secretary of State or something. So, I mean, basically, do you want to interrogate some kindly old secretary? Okay, so 20. I found where we were before. Damn. No, I'm fine. I was just trying to give a little bit better explanation of who Bittner and Timbers were, but basically, I think one is holding an office, and the other person is the president's private secretary. Mrs. Bittner is a private secretary, I believe, and Timbers is a secretary of some other office. So if you want to question her, go to 52. Paul's in on it. If you want to question Secretary Timbers, go to page 53. And if you want to give up on trying to decide who took the letter, go to 74. I think it's interesting that both of those pages, it's not often that the pages are right next to each other.
Right next to it.
So it makes me wonder if there might be some like turnabout happening here.
I bet if you go to the secretary, she's like, well, I seen this guy go in there.
Well, I turned ahead to see what was up, and basically, this is who you speak to first. So you're going to talk to both of them, unless you don't want to talk to anybody. So, whether or not that's going to bear fruit, I don't know. So, basically, you guys have managed to turn us into the bureaucratic bullshit of Washington. Instead of trying to figure out what the heck is up with the whale song and this Loch Ness monster tunnel they've got going through the
We know that's communist.
Center of the earth. You think the whale's communist?
Yeah. When was this book written?
This book was written. That's a good question. It was reprinted 7 times. That's how popular Choose Your Own Adventures were. 1981.
Oh, yeah, they're communists. The whales are communists for sure.
Andrew is alluding to the fact that we were involved in the Cold War during this time. I was actually kind of doing a Nixon impression for the president. I should have done Reagan, I suppose. But so far it's a stalemate. We're talking to Bittners and Timbers. So Paul says, talking to Mrs. Bittner, of course he would go for the old woman. Make of that what you will. Awesome. So basically we're going to... This is even worse than a tie. Everyone is picking exactly one of the choices. So the question becomes, does everyone really want to talk to these old people? Or to these people, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be ageist. Let's see here. So there may be, I kind of took a glance at it. It looks like there may be a little bit of like logic puzzle happening here, you know. Someone was here at 9:30 and another person was here at 10 o'clock, but they were both there at the same time, and who was there that had the red scarf and all that kind of thing. Maybe not. I don't know. I think Jennifer is having some technical difficulties. She's getting Commie whale. You must find the red whale. He's got a hammer and sickle on the side of him. Although those days are over. We don't have any problems with Russia anymore. At all, whatsoever.
Oh, she doesn't know that I'm here, I guess, because of the whale comment.
She should know you're here.
You change all the cameras yourself.
I do everything myself. I got tentacles like an octopus. Okay, we need one more person. How many views? I mean, how many? Can you see how many people are on right now?
We have...
Because it's looking like 5.
2 on there and 3 on Twitch.
Huh. So basically, we have a hell of a lot less than a baker's dozen on right now. Well, let's see. May have to employ Providence to get this thing moving again.
Could be you.
But I've said multiple times that I'm not allowed. I'm flipping a coin right now.
Oh, I was like, there's 3 choices. I have to...
Okay, tails. So, Mrs. Bittner. We're going for it. We're going to talk to Mrs. Bittner. I've always been good with the biddies. Ooh. You and Mrs. Bittner sit down in her office. Tell me what happened, you say.
An A brought me several letters around 9:20, Mrs. Bittner replies. I screened them quickly to see which ones were important enough for the president. I knew he would want to read the letter from Dumont, so I put it under the ashtray, along with a couple of others that looked important. I left for a meeting at 9:30. When I came back at 10 o'clock, the other 2 letters were there, but Dumont's was missing.
You stupid son of a bitch. You're totally the president's assistant, and you leave important letters under an ashtray. I'm just kidding. She probably knew all the security peoples and trusted them all. And I guess she has Parkinson's too. I was like shaking my head when I said that. I guess I was kind of doing some kind of debilitated Katharine Hepburn impression. I don't know. Okay. So the question becomes... All right. I'm going to make an executive decision here and just go ahead and talk to Timbers. Because it's basically that's the series. Like, you're going to talk to Miss Bittner, and then you're going to talk to Timbers, and then you're going to go back to McKim, or...
The same page?
It's like right across from it. It's basically, the next question is whether or not...
Is it 53 still?
I'm on 52. I'm going to 53.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if talking to her will give you a different page. Is all I was wondering.
No, they're right next to each other. And basically it's saying, if you haven't talked to Timbers and you decide to question him, if you have talked to Timbers, you decide to question McKim, or you want to give up. So we're going to talk to Timbers. Timbers ushers you into his office and gestures towards a chair. He seems somewhat nervous, but not unfriendly. Were you in Mrs. Bittner's office between 9:30 and 10 o'clock when she claimed she returned and found the letter missing from her under the ashtray? Yes. I came in just after 9:30 looking for her. She wasn't there, so I left. Did you notice anything? Not a thing. Did you notice whether there was anything under the ashtray? This ashtray is crystal. It's totally clear. Is someone going to miss that there's a gigantic piece of paper under there? I really didn't even notice whether there was an ashtray. I just glanced around the room and left. Thank you, Mr. Timbers. God! All right. So the question is now whether... What the hell's wrong with my coin? What's wrong with my coin? She said I need a better coin.
Because I didn't get what she wanted.
I'm not Two-Face. All right? So, we have talked to Mrs. Bittner. Do we want to question McKim further? If we do, we go to page 47. If you want to Give up trying to look for who took the letter. Go to page 44.
Oh, so it's different now. It was 74, wasn't it?
I thought it was 47.
Might have been.
But it isn't. Now that we've... Okay, let's see what we've learned, first of all. Mrs. Bittner says that that an aide brought her a bunch of letters. She screened through them. She knew that she knew that he wanted to read the letter from Dumont. So she put it under the ashtray and left for a meeting at 9:30. She was gone for a half hour and came back and it was missing. Timbers says that he came in just after Bittner had left. It was right after 9:30, and he left when she wasn't there. And he said that he didn't notice anything in the room. He was kind of walking in, glanced around, and left. Now, it seems to me that if you're a secretary of any kind of capacity, and you're in the room, I guess, I don't know what you'd call it, like the office of the president, and you see a piece of paper just under an ashtray.
It'd be the Oval Office then.
I mean, yeah, you think it'd be the... I mean, they haven't specified it's an Oval Office, so it makes me wonder if it's like maybe even an either further interior office. It says the Oval Office has like... That's where they have all the camera crews and stuff set up. She just gave me a multi-die. He just gave it to me. Don't get everything. Although, let's be real. If it's a 50-50 thing, a multi-die won't help you.
1 through 3.
So you'd have to do a 1 through 3 or 1 through 3, 4 through 6. I mean, it seems to me for that. But anyway, enough of this splitting hairs bullshit. We have talked to Mrs. Bittner, so the first question doesn't matter. The question is, do we want to talk to McKim again further, or do we want to give up the search for who took the letter? Seeing as how it keeps telling us that over and over again, I mean, so far, it's a he said, she said situation. Mrs. Bittner could be lying, and Timbers could be just weird, and it's just like a red herring. Because he is acting kind of weird about it, but it could easily be either one of them. So the question is whether or not we want to find out any more from Mr. McKim. That is page 47. Or do we want to give up trying to find who took the letter? That's 44.
We've come too far to give up.
Let's see here. Oh, for the love of crap. He just brought in a gigantic pile of multifaceted dye. Jeez. Although, I mean, I guess in order to be a dye, you'd have to be multifaceted. So, redundancy department. That's what I'm all about. Okay, Copacetic genocide saying question more.
There you
Let's see. Okay. Andrew Moore has arachnophobia. He's saying that he just saw a spider that was bigger than $50.
No.
To that I say,
His feet.
it depends on what you need. I mean, do you need flies buzzing around your mouth at night? Do you need...
Oh, there's plenty of them down here.
Ooh, Paul's giving up. Oh, shit.
He's done with this letter. What happened to the whales?
Like, I don't give a damn about no damn letter. I want to find out what's going on with these stinking humpback whales. Come on! Sorry, she's freaked out up there. She's like, oh my God, what's happening down there? Is there a fist fight? She's freaking out upstairs.
Okay.
She's, no, the person. I think Jennifer just called you a bitch, Andrew. I know she's not talking to me that way.
Apparently I look like one.
Because if she ever wants to see a hardback Hemingway ever again, she better watch her P's and fucking Q's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming for you, Paul. She's threatening people. Outright threatening people. Okay, we got question more and we got give up. Jennifer. Let it go. Or I'm going to have to flip that stinking coin again. And we know how much you hate that. What? I don't understand. Okay. I think they're having a conversation to each other. Jennifer and Carrie are having a conversation. Okay, choices. If you have talked to Mrs. Bittner, which we have, and want to question McKim further, we go to page 47. If you decide to give up trying to look for the letter, you go to page 44. So far, we have one for questioning McKim further, and one for giving up. And getting back to these humpback whales, because, I mean, there's some serious mysteries happening on here. Okay. All right. So we've got conversations happening on here that has nothing to do with the Choose Your Own Adventure. So I'm going to have it flip a coin again.
She's asking, Carrie has a question for you, I think. I could be a million pieces of dice and you just...
I just told you a second ago that it has to be... Okay, I'll do the dice and we'll say 1 to 3 and 4 to 6. Okay, so we're questioning McKim further. 47. You return to McKim's office and close the door behind you. Did you figure out who took Dumont's letter? Yes. You? Who? What? Me? That's... What? That's preposterous. Wait a second, what? Oh, okay, wait. All right. This dialogue is set up kind of funny. You return to McKim's office and close the door behind you. Did you figure out who took Dumont's letter? He asks. Yes, you. Who? What? Me? Why, that's preposterous, he replies. No, it's not. It has to be you. Because if Mrs. Bittner had taken the letter, she would never have reported it missing. That's not necessarily true. We have all seen usual suspects. And since she's innocent, we can assume she was telling the truth when she said the 2 other letters were never taken from the ashtray. Yet you were so anxious to show that Dumont's letter had been taken before you got there, that you insisted there were no letters under the ashtray. He didn't insist anything. He said he didn't even notice that there was anything there to begin with. McKim doesn't blink an eye. Instead, he reaches in his desk, pulls out a letter, and shows it to you. Since you want to know what Dumont said in the letter, here it is, he says. You mean you took this letter before the president could see it? Read it, McKim says. You glance at the handwriting. Dumont wrote it. All right. The letter reads, Dear Mr. President, I have discovered the new whale song as a signal telling where the whales disappeared to. An enormous underwater cavern. An enormous underwater cavern under Deception Island off the east coast of Greenland. I will be happy to discuss this with you. Meanwhile, I urge that the cavern of the whales be preserved as their rightful property. Respectfully yours, Claude Dumont. Why did he even mention it then? If you mention something in the government like that, they're going to take possession. They're not just going to act like it isn't there. What?
We died.
No. That would be... I'm the one who stole the letter, McKim says, as you finish reading it. Why bother with all that bullshit? I did so because Dumont called me and asked me to intercept it, saying he had decided he'd not want the president to know about the cavern of the whales. So he sent the letter. This is weird. So Dumont had decided to send the letter to the president and change his mind. So then he had McKim intercept the letter before the president could see it. But now in the meantime, McKim knows about it. Bittner knows about it. The agent knows about it. I mean, so many people know about it already. And you're withholding this information even though the president is elected to make the decision, you ask? Whoa, Jonah is like, seriously, he's like Uncle Sam. I have to follow my conscience, McKim says. Now you'll have to follow yours. Ooh! Burn cream. If you say, this is so funny, dude. It's saying, if you say, quote, my conscience says we must go to the president immediately and tell him everything. Turn to page 54. If you say, quote, I'll have to think about this and let my conscience be my guide. Turn to page 114. So, if you want to turn and tell the president about McKim, possibly leading to maybe imprisonment. I mean, you don't want to keep information. I mean, this wasn't just keeping information from the president. This is taking information out of the president's grasp. You can end up in Guantanamo for that. Or do you want to think about it and let conscience be your guide? If you want to tell the president, we're going to 54. And if you want to think it over and not necessarily tell the president, you're going to 114. So we have to remember, this is during the 80s. We are not talking about our current president. So don't let that sway your decision. This is a president that a lot of you may not have seen. So don't. So is copacetic genocide saying that snitching is what he wants to have done, or is he just calling someone a snitch for even intimating that they were going to tell the president this stuff? But I don't know, man. This is almost like treason that we're talking about here. You can't just. I mean, it was Dumont's choice. He should have stuck with it. I mean, does that mean this guy is so flighty as to not even give any thought to whether or not he's going to tell the president something that might endanger this whales, with their little grotto or whatever it is? I guess it's intimating. I thought they were going to say that the whales went through like a tunnel in the earth and ended up on the other side of the ocean. But he's saying that they actually disappear underneath Deception Point and they have their own little hideout down there. I suppose that maybe they're whales that just they're the type of whales, like filtering whales, where they just lay there, or they float there and they allow food to just kind of like float into their mouths rather than actively hunting it. And they could just kind of like hang out down there and get fed just by the intake of the...
It's a submarine.
Andrew's saying there's a submarine involved, shaped like a whale. Commies, he says. Have you ever seen those Iron Sky movies about like Nazis on the moon? Mm-mm. I think they've made a couple of sequels so far. They're kind of using that technology like Sky Captain: The World Tomorrow, where they have people just like walking in front of green screens for the entire thing, and they might put like a palm tree or some kind of desk here or there, but the rest of it is like fake as shit.
Kind of like Kung Fury or whatever.
Kung Fury, although I mean, they did a pretty good job. I mean, Fassbender was coming on for that sequel. That is totally weird. They said my screen's gone. It disappeared.
It did?
But before it did, I saw a vote on either side. We've been stalemating like a son of a bitch tonight.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't know it was gone. You should told me. Like the whole screen's gone or just
Oh no, Sea of Thieves is back up again, but I'm not seeing the memos.
Right.
I'd like to know where Tyler's at. He totally voted. The hell is he? I mean, although maybe he's apparently Tyler from the Cannibal Wine Tasting podcast might have a important interview on the docket. That's kind of up for grabs right now. We'll see what happens with that. But so he might be busy setting that up.
You should see the comments.
Or watching some kind of weird G.G. Allen documentary. Dude. Sorry. Okay, so
114.
Are we telling the president?
114 and tell the president, Paul said, and I said tell the president.
Okay, so we got 2 tell the presidents?
Yeah.
Alright. So we're telling the president. Snitches get stitches, bitches. Alright. I have a feeling that McKim's going to pull out a gun. Good, says McKim. And don't worry about that letter. The president has already seen it. We've been testing your fitness for the job, and you're doing fine. You'll also be glad to know that the case is closed. We reached an agreement with the Russians. Dumont has been returned home safely. The whales will be protected, and their cabin kept off limits for the military and commercial purposes. You walk out of McKim's office with a smile on your face, feeling as light as a whale in the water. The end.
Did you still tell the president?
No, you didn't even get there.
He could be lying.
McKim said that, yeah, this whole thing, it could totally be a lie. Damn it. What a... Ugh.
So, I guess he was in on it the whole time.
It seems like he was just fucking with you the whole time, like everything he did. I mean, I guess it makes sense with the way he was acting that... Alright.
I say forget about the letter.
So, it seems like the only course of action is to forget about the letter. Which brings you to this guy. Book camming it. I totally expect that this is what I'm going to look like when I'm a little bit older. My hair's already getting there. You get it? Whoa, I put it in the perfect place? You didn't? Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. You just can't seem to make much progress in this investigation. The president is unavailable, so you report back to Oberd.
I guess you're better out in the field where the action is, he says. Well, here's an assignment you may like. A well-known computer expert named Ivan Ivenko owns a brownstone house on West 73rd Street in New York City. Some of his employees live and work in the house. They have very sophisticated radio and computer equipment that seems to consume a great deal of electricity. We can't be sure, but we think that Ivan Ivenko is Double I. He may have a copy of the whale song tape. I want you to get inside that house. You ought to be able to convince him you have something he wants to buy.
I'm on my way, you reply. And a few hours later, you step out of a taxi in front of Ivan Ivenko's house. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit and then I'll show you the picture. You knock on the door. There's no response. You knock again. Finally, the door opens a few inches. A thick chain prevents it from opening all the way. A short, bulky man in a black suit and black tie peers out at you. What do you want? He asks gruffly. I have some information that Ivan Ivenko wants very much. I am prepared to sell it for $10,000. I see, the black-suited man replies. And what is the nature of this information? It is the meaning of the new whale song. Wait, the voice says, and a door slams in your face. A few minutes later, a tall woman opens the door. Her thick reddish-blonde hair is swept back tightly over her head. You may come in, she says in an icy voice. The woman shows you into a lavishly furnished study where a round-faced bald man is seated at a large mahogany desk. This is what he looks like. Either the desk is really large or he is really small. One of the two. Because he looks like an Oompa Loompas grandpa.
It looks like you can't trust him.
Andrew says it looks like you can't trust him. It looks like you can't trust him. So he must be used to...
I don't assume genders.
Okay, he said he doesn't assume genders. Moving on. He does not move except to gesture towards a chair. You take a seat, quite sure that the man and the woman behind you have weapons pointed at your head. Are you Ivan Ivenko, you ask? Just call me Double I, the bald man replies. But before I can pay you, I must trust you, right? Before I can trust you, you must trust me, right? If you trust me, you will state your code name. If you give your fake name, you will be liquidated.
If you give your true name, I will place $10,000 in your hands. And then you will tell us the meaning of the new whale song. The precise meaning. Incidentally, we already know your code name, so you have nothing to lose by revealing it.
Since you haven't said my code name, you reply, how do I know you really know it?
You can't be sure. It is true. But you do not want to take a chance on that, will you? Come now. Out with it!
If you say, call me Jonah, turn to page 72. If you make up a fake code name, turn to page 74. Please let us make up our own fake code name. Okay. So if you want to tell this guy what your code name is, we go to 72. If you want to make up a fake code name, go to 74. I suppose I could have done some half-ass Russian Russian impression, but it just would have been some kind of outlandish Russian thing, and I don't know. That might be offensive, I guess. I'll probably end up sounding like Colossus or something. Just call me double. It's I don't know. I'll have to work on that one. I can do Russian sometimes, but for some reason it always degrades into my like totally outlandish Nazi thing. Yes, he's got a condition. It's called elephantitis of the face. He's got this really gigantic head and jowl area, and his face is really small.
Before I can pay you.
No. Nope. That's going to take some, that'll take a little bit of practice. It was awesome. I was listening to a podcast where Maurice LaMarche was on there. He does the voice for Brain and Pinky and the Brain. And I guess he does all kinds of voices all over the place. I think he's kind of up there with Mark Hamill for the amount of voice work that he does. And it was totally awesome to hear him at work because he can be talking and all of a sudden he'll just fade into a voice like the Brain voice, which is basically like an Orson Welles impression. And he can just fade into it just instantly. It sounds like a completely different person. But I guess he's been doing it for like 30 years or something. It's insane. That's my dream. That would be like the funnest job of all time, doing cartoon voices. Hopefully, you never know. It could happen a lot sooner than anybody thinks. Wink, wink. So are we telling him Jonah or 74? Let's see. 74. Got 274. 74, 74, give me 74, give me 72, 72, 72, 74, and 74, sold. Call me Ballsack, you say. No, I'm just kidding. It's Whitecap.
Aww.
Call me Whitecap, you say. Tisk, tisk, the bald man says.
It looks as if we can't count on you for anything, Jonah, so I'll have to count you out.
These are the last words you ever hear. The end.
Damn.
Yeah. Put it on book cam real quick so you can see like what you see or what's happening around you before you get croaked.
Are they just all talking?
They're pointing guns. I guess that it's one of those things where it's like you win if you're disloyal to your code name, and you fail if you're loyal to it. Maybe. I don't know.
So we're going to go back and see if...
So we're going to go back.
We're already at an hour and 30 minutes on this.
Are we? Damn it. Well...
I didn't realize that until now.
Neither did I. We're going to try to get this to some kind of satisfactory conclusion if we can manage it.
We're going to tell them that we're Jonah?
Yes, we're telling them that we're Jonah. 72.
Very good, Jonah,
The bald man says. He spreads out a handful of $1,000 bills in front of you. There are 10 of them. Now, he says, The meaning is complex, you say. I need to translate as I listen to the tape. Play the tape, I'll translate it for you.
Very well. It no longer matters that you know we have the tape. You came along at a very good time, you see. We found out that you are the key U.S. agent on the case just about the time. We found out our computers would not be able to decode the whale song.
The bald man picks up an intercom and says a few words in Russian. A few moments later, the tall woman wheels at a cart on which is mounted a tape player, speakers, and some other instruments. In a moment, you hear the eerie and beautiful sounds of the new whale song. Now, you have what you want, the enemy agents and the stolen whale song tape. The only problem is there are 2 pistols pointed at the back of your head. There hardly seems to be any choice. You must bluff your way through it somehow. You don't know the meaning of the new whale song, but you know you have to pretend you do. And if you fail then, well...
Well, let's have the answers, the bald man snaps at you.
If you say the whale song means, warning, keep away from ships, turn to page 81. If you say the whale song means, follow me to our secret place, turn to page 106. You guys just had to go to Washington, didn't you? You just had to go to Washington. We could have been talking to a Russian spy. We could have been talking to... We haven't even gotten anywhere near Klein yet. He was the last person to see Dumont alive. Damn it! So does the whale song mean... I can't see the screen again. If you say the whale song means warning, keep away from ships, turn to page 81. If you say the whale song means... How's everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's doing good. This massive amount of people that we have watching tonight. Putting a call out to you, you know. Let us know how you're doing. First of all, vote. If you can manage it. Jennifer, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I have no idea what you're talking about. I think that there might be some kind of weird thing where I'm just getting half of your conversation, or you're talking to Carrie, or something. I don't know. I'm seeing like bits and pieces of conversation, and I don't know what's up. But are we going... Let's see. Are we going with the translation of the whale song being warning, keep away from ships? That's page 81. Or the translation we come up with is follow me to our secret place. Page 106. All kinds of crazy whale song translations. We've been shot in the head. We've been totally tricked by our own people. Was there another outcome? Is Paul saying follow me to our secret place?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me much.
I'm going to say the same thing, probably.
All right. Everybody wants to go to a secret place.
It surprises me, but I believe you're telling the truth, the bald man says. You see, we decoded the first part of the whale song. We knew it meant come or fall.
I am slap happy right now.
We knew it meant come or follow, and you have confirmed that. But follow where? To what secret place?
I don't know, you reply as you reach for the 10 grand.
Not so fast, the bald man says. You've earned some of that, but not all of it. You'll get 5,000 now and 5,000 when you find out for us. But the rest of the message is, where do the whales go? That's what we want. Will you do it?
You nod affirmatively. That means, like you're saying yes. I'm sure you knew that.
Do not betray us, or we shall spare no expense to liquidate you!
2 guards usher you out onto the street. You return to your hotel and call Obard to report on what happened.
Good work, he says. On the basis of the information you've obtained, we can get a warrant to go in and recover the whale song tape and break up the biggest spy operation in the country.
Thanks, you say. You feel good about what you've accomplished. Life should be good for a while, but you wonder how long you'll be around to enjoy it. The end. You know, I'm starting to think more and more. I'm starting to think more and more that Edward Packard may have written Scene of the Crime after all. Because it seemed like there were a lot of opportunities for this to get crazy, and so far it just hasn't. Now, whether or not that's just a thing where they want you to kind of go around in circles before you actually get anywhere, or what. But there you go. We're just going to end it there because we're going a little bit high on time. But thanks for everybody that tuned in for Choose Your Invention number 6. Your code name is Jonah for the non-entry episode. Man, it seems like we barely even made... How could we be over? It seems like we barely even had an episode. Maybe I talked too much at the beginning.
I mean, you can keep going. It's up to you.
I can't. I can't. I'm tired. I tired.
1:35.
I have not seen Alien Covenant, if that's what you're referring to. But I don't know. I often practice voices in my car as I'm just kind of driving around at work. So I don't know what was happening with those voices. I didn't even attempt the Russian. But anyhow, I am currently picking the books for next week's entry, and hopefully soon. I don't know if we're gonna kind of shoot for Halloween or what, but I would like to get moving on the Heckles and Horror crossover episode, where we're gonna go over a book to movie adaptation, and we're gonna do, if it all works out, we'll see if it happens, but we'll have TJ come on for the book review or the book analysis, and then we'll go over to Heckles and Horror for the movie review, and see what happens. That's not quite the order I like to do it in. I like to do the movie first and then the book. So we'll talk it over. It's just actually everybody's so busy with different movie projects and whatnot. It's just like at this point, it's a scheduling headache more than anything, because I know he's down for it. He loved the movie and the book, so we'll have a lot to talk about. Anyhow, this has been the 9th non-entry episode. We're creeping up on, I guess we're creeping up on episode 20. I don't know, it kind of gets confusing sometimes since we split up the episodes into entries and non-entries, so it seems like we haven't hit a milestone, but in fact we're actually coming up on 20. So, but that's no big deal. I actually got a reminder on Facebook telling me that the post that I put up 3 weeks before I opened the shop was 5 years ago. So it's weird. It's totally weird to think about how time flies. But anyway, hope you all have a good night. Thanks for tuning in to Diabolical Index live from the Nut House, this time in the Animonkai set. This for July 2nd, 2018. Beware your human heart. This is where the pages of the uncanny reside. And when you're listening to Whale Song and trying to Covenant, Indiana Jones. She's talking. Oh, the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant. I see. Ooh, she's talking about Belloc. I would love to be able to do a Belloc impression. It's yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess that one is kind of like that. Jones, do you know what the Ark is? It's a radio for talking to God. I love that guy. He's in a few things. He was actually in Young Indiana Jones. But anyway, yeah. Anyhow, sorry. When you're translating Whale Song and you decide to become a secret agent for the United States government and hang out with Italian scientists and find caverns underneath islands, make sure that you always keep it squirrely.
magic!